So I travelled to Ghana about 7 years ago now for the first time. And what I was doing there was I was initially on a 3-month sort of placement on a project, sort of working with an organisation called Challenges Worldwide, who are sort of sponsored by the UK government in a way, and what they're really trying to do is bring sort of young people from the UK over to different countries within Africa, Ghana being one of them, and sort of connecting them with young Ghanaians of a similar age, where we work together on projects in that country. So yeah, that was my reason for why I was in Ghana, and for me it was the first time living somewhere else that wasn't Scotland, which is where I'm originally from. So it was a completely different culture, different climate, different ways of working, etc., etc. And it was for 3 months as well, which was a really good, a long amount of time to really delve in and understand a culture and really get to know people.
So was it something that you planned to do, or you just something that you happened upon?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it was planned, because the way it came about is I applied for something called the Saltire Scholarship, and the Saltire is the name of the Scottish flag. So it was a Scottish sort of internship programme, and what they do is they take Scottish students and they place them in opportunities all over the world. So some people could go to New York, or some people who maybe got to go to Hong Kong or Singapore in Asia. So you got to see all these different opportunities, and I seen one in Africa and in Ghana, and for some reason I was really drawn to that opportunity. So I'd say it wasn't planned, but when I first sort of came across it, I just felt like that was the right one for me, and kind of who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, and where the direction I wanted it to go in.
So was Africa somewhere that you'd thought about going to before, or it hadn't crossed your mind at all?
Well, I'd actually been to Malawi the year before, just for 3 weeks. So it was a small sort of local charity. My friend's uncle started it, and it was called Classrooms for Malawi. So they built classrooms for primary school, for different primary schools, etc., etc. So I had a small experience. It was quite a bubble experience in that sense, but so I'd had a little taster of it. So when this opportunity came around to spend 3 months there and really kind of be let loose in the country and really experience it for myself, then I jumped at that opportunity.
Did you know anything about Ghana before that?
No, I knew very little, in all honesty. So I'm kind of one of these people who likes to not do too much research and just kind of learn by being there and being in that environment. So yeah, I didn't do too much research, and I didn't know too much about the history of Ghana and its importance in the world, particularly around the slave trade, etc., etc. And learning all that was a phenomenal experience for me to understand where it all came from.
So you'd say you're an adventurous person?
Yes, I'd hope so.
So what are your views on Ghana? How did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, first it's very different. So it's maybe a bit of this is not what I'm used to. So your body's reacts a bit to that. But after you get over the initial sort of difference in culture, ultimately at the bottom of it, people are the same, regardless which country you're in. They're all trying to achieve the same things. They all face similar challenges, although some face more challenges than others based on where they are, etc., etc. So once you get over that, you can really connect with people on a deep level. You realise that we're so similar, and connecting with people just becomes a lot more natural once you get over that initial culture difference.
So tell me about the culture, the differences between the UK and Ghana, and how you coped.
Yeah, so I was based in Kumasi, which is the second largest city in Ghana. So it's not the touristy place. So there was no sort of ways to get connect with Western culture a bit more, because in Kumasi it's very much just the Ashanti region. So there wasn't much sort of Western presence there at all, which was great. So yeah, some of the things that I guess I would call out was the biggest difference was the difference in transport. So in the UK we relied very heavily on rail, but in Ghana it was very much road transport, which was the predominant one, using the trotros, which are small minibuses, to get around. At first seemed a bit of a strange concept, but then after a few weeks of doing it every day, it just becomes second nature to you. And then one of the I guess the most pleasantly surprising elements was just how entrepreneurial everyone was in the culture. That everyone had set little businesses set up, all over the place, from people just selling food on the roadside to full bustling markets selling all sorts of goods and services, and how active the women were in the entrepreneurial side of that as well was really eye-opening for me, and I thought that was really I was really pleasantly surprised by that aspect.
So did you do any bartering when you went to the markets?
I tried, but I don't think I played
It didn't work for you.
Price. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So tell me, you were telling me something else about a relationship you started in Ghana?
Yeah. So whilst we were there, there was obviously lots of different people, young people of the same age. So inevitably, there's going to be some sort of romance brewing somewhere. So yeah, I met my partner, who is actually from London, so we were just both in Ghana on the same programme at the same time. We were kind of working closely together, and we stayed close together in the city as well. So we got really, really friendly, became good friends, and then once we got back to the UK, we decided to sort of continue things. Just not as friends anymore, but a bit more serious.
Okay. All right. And also, you mentioned a business that you were involved with.
Yeah. So because of the experience that I had, I'd made so many great friends in Ghana, and that kept those relationships going after I left. And there was one particular person that I lived with called Sam Opoku, who is a Ghanaian, and we got on really well, and we always had really great chats about all the problems in the world and how we wanted to solve them and change things for the better. So we knew we always kind of wanted to do something together, because we're very similar people. Very passionate about solving these types of problems. The only difference was, I was in the UK, Sammy was in Ghana, and I think it's no surprise to anyone, but the opportunities that I had in the UK compared to what he might have in Ghana were very different, despite us being, equal in, how hardworking, intelligent, passionate we were. So I just that really struck me, that there was someone who was almost exactly like me in every single way, but just didn't have nowhere near the same amount of opportunity as me. So that always kind of was in the back of my head. And then one day Sammy called me and asked me if we wanted to start a business together. Of course, my answer was yes, absolutely. So yeah, we did that, and we didn't really know what it was going to be at the beginning. We thought we were going to be this, big tech product, which we may well end up being. But ultimately, what we realised was, if we started this about 3 years ago, and what we started to realise was we actually all come from consulting backgrounds. So Sammy worked for PwC in Ghana. I've worked for a number of consultancies in the UK. and we thought, well, why don't we do what we do best, which is consulting, but how can we use our skills to make an impact? So Startup Lounge Africa was born, and what that really is all about is it's about a few things. So first of all, our vision, and I go back to the thing I mentioned earlier about how me and Sammy were the same people, but we just had very different access to opportunity. So our biggest thing is to create an Africa full of opportunity for everyone, regardless of any religion, background, country, whatever. Create an Africa full of opportunity for everyone. And we believe the best way to do that is to create a flourishing entrepreneurship ecosystem where businesses can flourish and create jobs and create opportunities for young people to really achieve their full potential. So that's kind of our vision. How we do that at the moment is we help. We've off the back of the African Free Trade Agreement, where suddenly the borders of Africa are opened and businesses can trade with each other. Where there's still a challenge is how you actually go about doing that. So what we do is we help businesses enter new markets and really take advantage of this amazing step forward that Africa's taken to really open up the borders and see that free movement of products, services and people. So that's one of the sort of things we do. Other things we do is we help deliver impact projects in the continent, and we help businesses get funding, access to the funding they need, because that's another sort of difference in between, I guess, Europe and North America and Africa, is the access to the funding that these businesses need to grow and be successful. So that's another gap that we are trying to plug as well. And then I guess the last thing that we do is we also have a product called Kutana Africa. Now Kutana means to meet in Swahili, so I guess the translation is Meet Africa. And what it is, it's a business-to-business network for each other, learn from each other, and ultimately help grow the businesses by networking and helping them understand what opportunities are out there across the continent. So yeah, that's what we do.
So it's based in Ghana.
Yes.
But do you involve other areas in Africa, East Africa, West Africa? Well, that is West Africa, but South Africa as well?
Yeah. So at the moment we've done work. So our vision is to cover the whole of Africa, but
that's your starting point.
Yeah, we're only 3 years in. So Ghana is where we've done most of our work. Mm-hmm. We also have done some work and got a bit of connections in places like Tanzania, Nigeria, a little bit of Senegal, which we're trying to move into, which is French speaking, so it's slightly more challenging, but that's a new challenge we're coming up against. And then we've got clients in Germany, France, and the UK who we help, not European companies, enter the African market and bring the opportunity of jobs, etc., with them as well, because we're a firm believer that it's not just Africa that has to sort itself out. Actually, it should be a partnership between Europe, North America, Asia. Everyone should be working together to help Africa, realise its full potential, create all the opportunity, because ultimately that's going to be better for the world. Strong Africa is good for everyone, not just Africa. So yeah.
Well, you've made a start. So yes. That's something good. What is the connection with Germany, if you can talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so our CEO and my business partner, Sam, his wife is German, so he has moved over to Germany for the moment, but ultimately one of the key connections there is that Samuel actually used to work for the German government in Ghana through one of their organisations, And Germany is really quite active in Africa. They do a lot of interesting work and do a lot of interesting projects in Africa to really help build up the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So they run a lot of entrepreneurship projects. There's a project that they're kicking off in Ghana around e-waste and how to formalise businesses in the e-waste sector, because e-waste is becoming a massive problem, not just in Africa or in Ghana, but in the world, because we're using so much technology and hardware now that's constantly being improved, so people are getting rid of it, and the question becomes, what do you do with the old phone that people no longer want? So they're trying to help a country like Ghana, who does have an e-waste problem, one of the largest sort of e-waste landfills on the continent. How do you deal with that problem? How do you build businesses that can solve that problem but also be profitable and create jobs, etc., etc.? So the German government are a good example of a government that's actively focused on the right areas, and it's not just aid. It's actually getting involved in upskilling people and helping them build the businesses and the infrastructure needed to deal with the problems. So the German government's a good example.
So what is your view on Africa on a whole in terms of its development? Where do you think it will be in 10 years' time?
Africa at the moment is a continent of 1.4 billion people. I think that's around 18% of the world's population. So Africa already plays a big role in the world in terms of number of people. That's expected to double by 2050. Africa is only going to become bigger. It's currently home to some of the fastest growing economies in the world. It's full of natural resources. It's got the largest percentage of youth, which for me these are all things that are really positive. In 10 years' time, I think at the moment I think the penny's starting to drop, particularly in the West, about the amount of opportunity that Africa has, the amount of potential it has, and that's why you see countries like Germany getting a bit more involved. But I think countries like China and maybe India as well, maybe seen it coming earlier, and they're quite actively involved in different ways. So I've got a good example of that. We are helping a French client enter into the Ghanaian market, and we're going to an expo type event where lots of different companies come and they showcase their products.
When's that going to be?
That's going to be in October. It's the Ghana Energy Expo. And when we were looking at all the other companies that are going to be there, it's all Chinese and it's all Indian companies. So they've already, they're well invested and they see the potential in Africa. But I think, in the West, the penny has now dropped. That this is the next big opportunity, and the place that people should be focusing their time, because of all the sort of things that I mentioned earlier. That all the young people, the increasing population, and then these people that aren't here yet but will be born into the world. They will need goods and services. They'll need education. They'll need transport, and all that sort of an opportunity to really build Africa up and support it into its full potential.
Most important question of all, Nick. Were you ever called Muzungu?
So I was never called Muzungu. I was called Nebroni, and Nebroni is so I was in the Ashanti region, so it's Chi. So Nebroni, interestingly, has its translation is bringer of doom. And that goes back to one of the longest wars ever in history, which was the British Ashanti War. So the Ashantis called the English or the British the bringers of doom at that time. But eventually it sort of the meaning just kind of transformed itself into sort of just white person. But the history of actually where that word came from is really interesting. So yeah, you could often, particularly with children, when you're walking down the street, they'd be shouting after you, "Nebroni, Nebroni," which they obviously didn't know it meant bringer of doom. But so, yeah, it's not particularly pleasant when you look at it that way. But you know, it's no one really knows. Not many people know the history of the word, which I guess is the same in all cultures. A lot of words will have history that we don't know about. We just use the word flippantly now. So yeah, that was me.
Okay, so give your organisation a shout out. Where can we find you on social media and so on?
Yeah, so we are Startup Lounge Africa. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We have a website, Startup Lounge Africa, as well. If you're interested in finding out any more about the services we provide, then please just reach out to us on one of those platforms or email us as well. You'll find our email on our website.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick, for coming on talking to me today.